My father is undergoing some mental health issues. He has a disease. And I thought that my stepmom and my stepsister would be supportive. Well, it turns out my stepsister stole from her mom, so her mom kicks her out, and I have mercy. I let her come stay with me. But when I find out she didn't really steal anything, it was all a plot. A plan to get them to move in with me so they could find out a secret. Well, that secret, I'm about to tell you what it is, and wow, this one is a crazy one. Hey, I'm Alex, a 26-year-old woman, and my father was diagnosed with Alzheimer's about 3 to 4 months ago, which was a few weeks after my wedding to Brad. I moved to Harrisburg from Pittsburgh almost 6 months back when I got my very first ever high-paying job as a finance lawyer. My father's name is Jack, and he lives with my stepmother and stepsister, who have been trying to snag my share of his will since he brought them home a few years ago. But since he's been diagnosed, their scheming has crossed all limits to the point that I just caught them in a very, very planned, elaborate, white-faced, bold lie. I had plans to uncover them soon, but I need some help with that, because I'm tired of handling all of the drama and need to put an end to all of this once and for all. This all started a few years back when I was still living with my dad and both of them. I had always gotten a very hostile and weird kind of vibe from them. Layla. She's 20 years old, and her mother, Susie, controls her like a puppet. She's filled her brain with so much hatred and anger, it's concerning. At first, I saw this side of her in a very small day-to-day behavior. Like one time she stole my dad's car keys when I was 19 and put them in my drawer, and told him that I secretly took his car out to go somewhere at night. My dad did not make a huge scene or anything because he knew Layla did it. She was playing with his keys in the morning before he left for work and made a whole fuss about giving them back. He didn't doubt me for a second. This other time, Susie did something extremely ridiculous when I was, 21? I'd started making a little money, and I had told Dad that I wanted to pay for the Wi-Fi and some other stuff around the house. But since Susie was in charge of some of this stuff, I was giving their money to take care of it. A month later, we got an email from the Wi-Fi providers saying that we had not paid for it in this month. My father was a little disappointed, and he said that I could not afford it. That's fine. I could have just told him. There was no need to lie. Well, I felt humiliated and angry, so I told him that I've given the money to Susie because she takes care of it, and she continued to lie that I had not given her one dime, even though she had asked me multiple times. But my father did not believe her because she had done this a few times before, forgetting to pay for things, and they did this way too many times over the years, but my dad always found out the truth and never let me bear the consequences for anything. It only backfired on them, and after that, I moved out, so anyway, there wasn't a lot of scope for them to bother me. I thought that they would try to wreak havoc in my wedding to buy that they couldn't. And then I saw a drastic change in them after my dad got diagnosed. Actually, it was after he gave me his credit card to take care of all his treatment and health insurance. I think that made them realize that if he gave me the credit card, a good amount of the will would also be under my name. Can you imagine? I'm breaking my back trying to get him into a nursing home and take care of his doctor appointments, but all they can think about is money this and money that, and what'll happen after he dies? And he only gave me the credit card for his treatment, not to spend on myself or something. So after like a month ago, Layla came knocking at my door and I was really shocked to see her. She was crying and she looked terrible and desperate. I got really worried because she had come all the way from Pittsburgh without telling me. She was crying hysterically, and then she began to tell me her mother caught her stealing money from her wallet, which made her really angry, and she kicked Layla out of the house. And since she didn't have anywhere to go in Pittsburgh, she came straight to me. I felt really bad for her and consoled her, and I also tried talking to Susie, saying that this all happened, it was a mistake, and that she should not kick her out. But Susie was very angry, and she began to scream at me. I hung up because there's no point to talk to her like that. After this, Layla began to request me to let her stay with us as she knew that her mom's anger would calm down in a few days, after which she would take her back. I was a little reluctant to take her in since we don't have a good history of living together, but she said that it's all in the past and that she really needed my help, so I caved in and let her stay. In the next few days, Layla stayed pretty silent, and I kept asking a lot of questions about work, my daily routine, my future plans, and whatnot, which was weird because I ignored it, until a few days later when I had just come back home from work slightly earlier than usual. I went to open the door to the living room and the bathroom. Layla was inside. I heard her talking to somebody saying things like, "I'm trying to get as much info out of her as possible." It didn't take me long to realize that she was talking to Susie. I heard their entire conversation without Layla realizing I was home. I found out this entire thing, she kicked me out drama, was all a ploy to get inside my house and find out something about my life that could manipulate to a point, trying to paint a bad picture of me in front of my father so that he would remove me from the will. She had come all this way just to do it, all the way to Harrisburg just to spy on me and execute some dumb elaborate plan. How stupid and ridiculous are they to be doing such kiddish things? My dad is literally under treatment for a terminal illness, and they're pulling this crap? The moment she hung up the call, I ran and sat on the sofa. She came out all surprised that I was home early, and I felt so stupid that I let her in my house and she was doing all this under my roof. So, in the next few days, I came up with a plan myself. I called our electrician and told Layla that there was a problem with our air conditioning, so he's here to fix it. But instead, I had called him to install hidden cameras and recording devices all around the house so I could stay on top of all the scheming they were up to before it did me or my dad any harm. I could have just called them out and confronted them, I know, but I was sure that they would repeat something like this again and again and again. So the next few days, I listened to everything they've been talking about and that they had no clue. It wasn't long before I got to know their entire plan. Layla was planning to steal Dad's credit card and go on a shopping spree where she would spend all the money that was meant for my dad's treatment, and then Susie would show my husband all the bank statements telling him that I was wasting the money away. So he became suspicious about me since we were newly married. These stupid fools were not just putting me at stake, but also my dad's treatment. Their plan was to spend thousands of dollars, and I mean the stupidity was almost remarkable. I got really stressed when I found out about the plan, but I was ready to spend my own savings on my dad's treatment. Because once he found out about their petty little scheme and the fact that they spent the money that was for his health amidst all the seriousness going on, he would see them for just who they really were. I was very stressed and sad, but I was ready to uncover every bit of their lies. The only thing I'm worried about now is that I don't want any of this to reach Brad, my husband, because I don't want him to think that he married into a house full of loonies. Neither can I tell them about all this, nor can they reach Brad before I uncover them. I'm really worried, guys. What should I do? And this is the dilemma that's brought me here to ask a bunch of internet strangers how to deal with the situation. Because as much as I'm ready to expose them per se, I'm scared. Because what if the whole thing just backfires on me somehow? So yes, guys, I do need your advice. I'm doing the right thing, collecting all this proof against them, or am I not? Please do let me know what you think about the whole thing. I'll keep you updated about the entire situation. What's up, everybody? Mr. Reddito here. Oh boy, today's story is about to get even wilder. It only has 3 updates, but oh man, are they action-packed. If you're new to the channel, consider subscribing for daily drama stories. And let's jump into our first update, which came out 2 weeks later, update number 1. Hello guys. I'm sorry I disappeared for 2 weeks. Thank you for your support and suggestions. I've been reading all of them and they have really helped me get through all the drama with Susie and Layla. But to the people saying that my plan is unnecessary, do you think that this first time I'm recording them or gathering proof to show my dad? Hey, hello? I've tried to do this many times and they've all still not stopped. I just can't walk up to my father at the nursing home and start telling him about all this while he's in such a critical shape. I'm not going to subject him to that. If he has to see all of this, he has to see all this drama start from the first, because I did not choose any of this. But anyways, a few days after I wrote the last update, I woke up to a message from Layla. It was right there on my phone as I woke up, saying that she went to her friend's house last night and would come home in the evening. I knew that she was up to something. I checked my wallet and my credit card was missing and I had no idea where she even stole it from. So I took a leave from work that day and stayed home all day waiting for her. I was keeping track of all her transactions the entire day, and even though I knew what she was up to, looking at all those bank statements for thousands of dollars still made me feel so bad that I can't even begin to explain it. But I snapped out of it. I'd also heard of the recordings that morning that Susie was going to sneak into her house and show Brad all the statements behind my back. But since Brad and I were home the entire day, he knew that I was not out shopping. Around 5 o'clock that day, Susie barges into Brad's room, but little did she know that I've been waiting for her there. You should have seen the panic and shock on her face. It was so damn funny. I asked her what she was doing at our house, and she fumbled and said she was there to visit Layla. I said that Layla was out shopping and spending all of my dad's treatment money. And this is when Brad came into the room and Susie frantically began to show her all the bank statements, fake cries that I had wasted all of my father's money on myself. Brad looked extremely confused and weirded out by this, and he said that these bank statements are from today. But I never left the house, so how could I have spent all the money? Susie went completely blank. And even though my worst fears of Brad finding out the truth were coming to reality, I was still really glad that he was seeing through all her lies and crap. I think Susie had planned to get him behind my back, but her entire plan was derailed because I was there. I told her that I knew about her stupid little plan, and I was just waiting for them to go ahead and make their huge mistake of spending so much money so my dad could finally see who they were. A greedy, stupid person who didn't care about him or his health, but only about his money. Well, guys, she began to scream at me and started causing a lot of ruckus. But Brad kicked her out. I felt really bad that he had to be dragged into the middle of all this, but he didn't really have a problem at all. He said that he always knew Susie was toxic and he was glad that he was able to help me with all the drama. And I can't even tell you how relieved I was after hearing him say that, well, I'm so lucky to have found a husband like him who's understanding and supportive. But I know for a fact that Susie and Layla won't be staying quiet after this. I sure hope that they don't create any further drama for us. But let's just see what happens. I'll keep you guys updated about whatever goes down. Update number 2. This one came out 3 months later. Oh my gosh. I completely forgot about this post. I'm sorry. I really am forgetful. Today I just got a few comment notifications which made me pop in. So the last you heard from me was 3 months back. I told you until the point where I uncovered Susie's plan right in front of her, and just a few days after that my dad had to be admitted into the hospital as an emergency because he somehow wandered out of the nursing home and fell on a pedestrian. He didn't get hurt that bad, but still had to be admitted to make sure no complications had arisen. The next few weeks had spent at the hospital, and I was there with him all the time. I was so focused on his health that I had completely forgotten about the drama. So the day he was discharged from the hospital, I reached home. Layla was sitting on the couch waiting for me, and Brad told me that she had been there for almost an hour. She said that she wanted to talk to me about what all went down. Now that my dad's back to being normal, he'll notice that all the bank statements and ask me for answers, and Layla said that I should not tell him the truth because I'm pretty settled in my career and my life in general, but she's just 20. If I tell Dad the truth, he would disown him, and they would have nothing to fall back on. No support, and that she would never should have listened to her mom and done something so stupid. Guys, she was basically asking me just to take the hit for all that, what they've both done just so that they could manipulate my father into supporting them. How dumb did she think I was? I asked her to leave my house immediately, and that if she tried to contact me again, she would have to bear the consequences of what would come after that. There was a lot of screaming and fighting after that, but she eventually left. Well, guys, a week later, I visit my father at the nursing home, and he asked me about the bank statements. He looked pretty concerned and a little angry, which is only understandable, so I told him absolutely everything. I tried to be as gentle as possible because I did not want this to impact him very badly, since he was, anyway, in a delicate condition. I showed him all the proofs too, but after hearing everything, he was not shocked or surprised. Rather, he was disappointed and angry. He knew that they were both a little toxic, but he didn't expect them to stoop so low as to spend so much money, all because they wanted to secure his entire will. And their own name. He realized that they didn't care about his health as much as they cared about his money. So he said that if his money was all they wanted, then he would entirely remove them from the will. They'll get no part of his inheritance, and it will all go to me since I spent my savings on his treatments. We both also got really emotional, and I felt really satisfied now that everything was out in the open. Dad decided that he would not tell Susie right away because he knew that she would try to stop him from changing his will. He would get the will changed and then hold a will reading to tell everyone his decision, so that after he's gone, I won't have to deal with their hostile behavior. It's been a few months since this all went down, and he's holding the will reading next week. He said that if they both thought that they could sneak up behind his back when he was sick to pull something so twisted, he could do the same. I'm just a little worried about how loud their reaction's going to be once they find out that, given their track record with bad news, I think the will reading is about to be really, really dramatic. Is there any way I can make sure that it does not affect my father? Any suggestions would be so welcome. Final update. Update number 3, 6 months later. Oh man. Hey friends. These last 6 months have been absolutely crazy. Things got pretty intense at my dad's will reading, just as I expected. We had all gathered at my dad's nursing home for it, and Brad was there with me too. At first, Susie and Layla were showing fake obligatory concern and coddling my dad and everything because, of course, they had to suck up to him. It was just very pitiful to even look at. Poor souls had no idea what was about to happen to them. After some time, my dad's lawyer came so we could finally get started with the will reading. He began to recite the will, and they were both listening very eagerly. They had such a glimmer on their face because they have no idea that my dad knew about what they had done. It took him 5 minutes to recite the entire thing. And when I tell you they both froze, they asked him to repeat some parts of it again. Susie starts to confront my father. She was in a really grave shock. They both began to ask him a million questions, but he was already prepared for that. But they both were so not prepared for what came next. They also began to accuse me, saying things like I had influenced him to bump them off the will. And that's when my father told him that he knew that they both had done, and they had taken advantage of his illness as well as my kindness, and that he should have done this years back, because they've always been doing stupid and toxic things. But this time they had crossed the limit, using his treatment money for shopping just so they could frame me and paint a bad image. They both went completely silent after he said all this and kept looking at each other and the floor, looking for ways to fight back. So guys, after a few minutes, guess what? Susie starts to cry. Of course, she would do that since she was not left with any comeback whatsoever. She kept saying that he could not do this to her and Layla, and that they were supposed to do once he was gone. They have nothing. They made Dad even more mad because instead of apologizing, she was making it all about herself again, and her entire focus was on the will happening after he dies. My dad said that he was shocked that she could not even pretend even for a second that she cared about him and that marrying her was the biggest, dumbest mistake of his life. And then he said something that absolutely made my heart explode. He said that he had zero sense of responsibility or even basic common sense, and that she had no idea what her stupidity had cost us. He then proceeded to declare that he wants a divorce from Susie. Her reaction to hearing that was so loud and eccentric. She began to hold his hand, start screaming and crying that he can't do this. Brad immediately grabbed her and pulled her away from him. It got so bad after a point that I was too scared to even go near her. The security people at the nursing home had to kick her out. After she calmed down a little bit in a few hours, my father asked her to come inside again and said that there was no need to make this all so difficult and that it would be in her best interest if she amicably accepted everything that was happening. That's when Layla jumped in and said that we were ready to do anything to win their trust back. And even though my father and I knew it was too late for that, we decided to have a little bit of fun on our own. And luckily, this is also the day when my dad was going back to his home for a few weeks. So when we all got home, I asked them to clean our pigsty. At first, they were both very confused and, didn't really want to do it, but they were so desperate for money that they would do anything. So they literally went out and started cleaning the pigsty. Can you believe it, friends? It was so funny how desperate they both were. A few minutes into it, they began fighting and blaming each other for getting them into this mess. And boy, were my dad and Brad enjoying the show. A few hours later, they came up to the door and begged us to let them in since they cleaned the entire pigsty. But I just laughed at them and gave them a bag of barley, some money, and asked them to find a new place to live, because they were not welcome here anymore. I also told them that if they try to plan any weird, stupid scheme, we'll report everything that they've done to the police and it will really get ugly for them. They were both so tired of fighting they took the money and scrammed, while crying their eyes out. And that's it. Since then, our lives have been really peaceful and quiet, and my dad has moved in with me and Brad so we can stay close to him at all times. The only thing is that they've been annoying us a lot with the whole divorce process. And Layla still calls me as if I'm her best friend, asking for advice on stuff and whatnot. Ugh. But honestly, I couldn't care less. As far as me and family's concerned, they're out of our lives forever. Soon the divorce will also be finalized and we won't have to see them ever again in our lives. Now that all this drama's over, I'm completely ready to focus on taking care of Dad and his health. I think about all this all the time, and I just think about this post. I just want to thank you guys for supporting me throughout the story and making it to the end. Your support really means a lot to me, and that I guarantee. So thank you, and goodbye. Negative comment number 1 says, "Why did you have to kick them out so dramatically? Getting rid of someone bothering you is understandable, but humiliating them is not okay, OP. And what about that poor girl Layla? You yourself said that she's been influenced by her evil mom, so why did she have to pay for her mistake? She has her entire future in front of her. She doesn't deserve this." Alright, the comment at the end that said, "You yourself said Layla was influenced by her mom, and the way you kicked them out was more than vengeful, it was embarrassing, and it wasn't something you needed to do." I want to know from you guys listening out there, if you were in OP's position, would you have done the exact same thing? I think I would have. But hey, if we don't agree, that's cool. But let's talk about it down below in the comment section, guys. What would you have done? Would you have kicked them out just like OP did, or maybe have some compassion, as some of the commenters like to say? Guys, my name's Mr. Reddito, and I narrate stories like this every single day. If you guys want to be a part of these daily readings, all you have to do is subscribe to the channel. Have a great day. I'll see you tomorrow. And of course, remember, it's cool to be kind. Peace.